It's time for Agenda Earth. And now, Bigfoot and superheroes.
What's going on, man?
Not much. Just flipping back and forth between the baseball game and Turner Classic Movies. They're playing the whole Hat Man series tonight with for a few dollars more.
Ooh.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Hang 'em High, guy stuff.
Those are classics.
Yeah, they always play good stuff, but sometimes they'll do a nice little run of related films like that.
Yeah.
Set you up for the whole night.
Yeah, they doing High Plains Drifter.
Let's see. Right now, it's for a few dollars more. Next is Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Got to have it on that just to see Eli Wallach.
Yeah.
Hang 'em High.
Those are the first two are the Sergio directions. Sergio Leone.
Yeah. No, so they're
Spaghettis.
Hang 'em High is the last one.
Hang 'em High is great, man.
Yeah, so they're running those three. So yeah, I'm just kind of going back and forth. The Braves are inexplicably in extra innings against Cincinnati. So free baseball.
Well, there you go.
Well,
I'm starting shift number 2 today.
Man.
Yeah. Pulled a 9-hour shift earlier and in the studio, and now I'm back in the studio for round 2.
Well, Agenda Earth is something that's always got to be in motion.
Oh, it does.
It's got to be out there, and I mean, even yesterday, I thought to myself, wait a minute. It's about time for some more Agenda Earth. I mean, I'm thinking that to myself.
Uh-huh.
And, so here we are, and,
well, I mean, we're just having a simple conversation.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's all it is. You talking to me, I'm talking to you. Speaking of that, what's been going on, man? I've been gone for a few days, so what have you been up to? What's been happening? And I'll fill you in, you fill me in.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, I've just been, I do a few classes in the morning. And here's what's, I'm always surprising myself. Now, you might think that I would hate getting up in the morning to teach these classes. But what's happened is that the afternoon and evening classes are the ones that really bug me out. And I think it's for a really silly reason, but it's true nonetheless. You get up, you get your coffee, you have it on the sports talk radio, sit down, log in, do your classes, blah, blah, blah. Well, after a few hours, classes are over. Guess what the professor is going to do next? Head right back there to lay down.
Right, you get your little midday nap.
Get that little midday thing going. And you wake up, feel real energized and stuff, But afternoon classes start at 5. And I'm like, oh man, I'm not feeling it. And so every day around 3 or 3:30, I'm psyching myself out or psyching myself up.
Right.
But then those classes are over and I'm psyched up again. So now I have a high energy thing. So we need to hurry up and make $1 million for 2 reasons. 1, the obvious.
Right.
And 2, so that people...
And the obvious being what kind of car?
A fully restored 65 Mustang.
There it is, folks. Right there. I mean, hey, man, I'm thinking, if I had that money, it should be something very similar. I'm thinking a '68 Camaro. Yours is a Mustang, mine's a Camaro.
Flip a coin. I mean, but
Yep.
you knew it was going to. Now look, yes, the beauty and majesty of a '66 Pontiac GTO is not lost on me. Don't get it twisted,
man.
Or the 1970.
Wow, I would never.
Corvette.
I would never get that twisted, pal. You know me.
The 1970 Corvette Stingray. But you can't lose with any of those permutations. You can't lose. So now, yeah, if you hold a gun to my head, I'll say, yeah, the '68 Shelby, like Steve McQueen drove in Bullet, I'll take it.
Yeah.
With the black vents on the side, the ventilation ports. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. No, that's a nice vehicle.
Mm-hmm. So trust me, our automotive cachet is totally correct.
Yeah.
It's totally correct. But no, man, I've been doing my classes. I've been, I brainstorm on this stuff all the time. The, Agenda Earth, crypto reality, la 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 la. I brainstorm on this stuff all the time, thinking about the shows, thinking about what we're doing, thinking about the upcoming website, and of course the upcoming documentary film. All of which we've been teasing it, we've been promoting it. And
it's just about time to start pounding that documentary. I don't know what you were thinking, but we were thinking like sometime in August, maybe the second or third week.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
so this is going to be going, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you first said something about doing Bigfoot in Georgia, I was thinking, that's a great idea, and I mean, I've always wanted to get up in that region. And, compare the ecosystem, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But when we really started looking into stuff and we were looking for an actual case reference, I think we found probably the best case ever. I mean, geez. To my knowledge, there's
founding case?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, really, Ware County in that case is incredible. We're going to retrace that entire investigation and, we're going to try to hit the same spots. I just think that's something to investigate.
I mean
that's something to investigate.
I can't get over. I mean, and I just kind of, of course, as always, history is a big role in this.
Well, that's the beauty of it for me. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's a historical, but the idea. I was down in the swamps many, many years ago, but if you just stop for 2 seconds and think about what it must have been like at the turn of the 19th century, what it must have been like down in there. And it's staggering to think about it. And I have to tell you, if you lay aside the historical charm of it, I would not want to be in the Okefenokee Swamp in 1806.
No.
I mean, you're right. That's a firm.
Let me think about that.
That would be
no.
Right. Yeah, it's really cool to wax poetically about it. But if I were to jump in the DeLorean and activate the flux capacitor, I would not set it to 1806 Ware County, Georgia. There's something that says don't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, aside from the fact that, I know what's really out there, and that there's a high probability that that article is accurate and that is an actual incident, contrary to popular belief. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I put stock in this stuff, and that's how we end up getting images and film clips of these things.
Well, the report, I mean, the veracity of the report, in my view, kind of meets the standards of, it was reported on at the time, but then later on in the 20s, 15 years later, some newspaper people, went in there and, got some reports and basically verified and wrote an article reporting on it again.
Right.
Because 15 years is a long time. The news story can become fresh again.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And, so those people went in there and, kind of rehashed everything and, published the story. And then, a lot happened between 1806 and into the 1820s. I mean, a lot more settling and civilization was creeping down in there. And so, this story was researched, investigated, and published.
Well, it almost makes you wonder what the motivation was. I more than likely there were a pattern of there's a pattern of other sightings moving through that time period, and there could have been a little time period there where it was heated up with development. Normally, that's how it works. We start moving into their areas, they start objecting. People see them, and they're like, "Oh, man!" And next thing you know, back then there was no BFRO. So let's go to the newspaper people because the police think we're nuts. You know what I mean? So they go to newspaper people, and then they start looking, and next thing you know.
Well, the interesting thing is that the newspaper people at that time were very mindful of the fact that it was a time in history, American history, where almost everything was in flux. Now, remember, Georgia, in the very beginning, was established strategically and politically as a buffer colony between the Carolinas and Spanish Florida. There was always a creeping suspicion that was expressed in the Congress, was expressed in the White House. There was always a creeping suspicion that if you did not keep your eye on what the Spanish were doing in Florida, they would encroach onto American soil with impunity. And so, this area we're talking about is extreme South Georgia, bordering on the North Florida. We always think of North Florida as South Georgia. Okay. In terms of the topography. But there was always this idea, we got to keep an eye on this region. And whatever happens that's even remotely interesting or controversial or newsworthy, we're going to be reporting on it. And I think this got caught up in the mix.
Well, I mean, it certainly does stand out as far as events go. 7 people go in, 5 come out. Mm-hmm. I think people underestimate the veracity of murder, regardless of like what time in a time period it was. There were still people there were absolutely people investigating this, man. You had people wondering what happened to their family members. If you think for 5 seconds that 2 guys are going to come out when 7 went in and those people weren't questioned by officials.
Oh, they had to be going nuts.
You're smoking something. These people were absolutely under the microscope. And the funny thing is they went in, according to themselves and the village or the township, to specifically find this thing and kill it. So What are we even discussing? You know what I mean? I got into a heated debate about this particular case about 5 years ago online and on air. And I just find it, it's like, why don't you just figure out every stupid reason to not listen? Because that's essentially what it is. You know what I mean? These people, with this, debunk the whole thing. How are you going to, first of all, in a case where you have multiple eyewitnesses and obvious law enforcement involvement where human deaths have ensued, where are you actually going to debunk something? The bottom line is all you can debunk is what the eyewitnesses said. And if they weren't on trial for murder, then shut the fuck up. End of story. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, law enforcement believes it. The whole township believed what happened, or they wouldn't have been out there in the first place. So I look at all that stuff, and, I mean, I can remember, well, this has been proven to be a hoax. Like, what are you even talking about?
When? By who?
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. You know what I mean? We get
by the way,
we get these people who are like, well, this is already proven to be a hoax. I suffer from this.
By the way,
persecution on a daily basis.
In 1806, Ware County, Georgia, who were your noted Bigfoot hoaxers?
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Well, so-and-so says, and, it's like, I don't give a damn what Squatch detective said what. The bottom line is you don't know shit. You weren't alive back then, and I'll take the word of an eyewitness over you any day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's, listen. In order to debunk something that is fairly well established requires you to be ridiculous. And that's why you get the kind of reactions that you do. You have to remember, Mark,
I think you're 100% accurate.
It requires you to be ridiculous. I mean,
how can I invent something that refutes this? Is right. Basically what you're saying.
Right. I mean,
that's the pattern. That's the pattern. Rhetorical,
right?
Dumb shit.
Let's just swamp gas it.
Yeah, we're going to swamp gas it. Well, that's impossible.
Yeah.
That's what you end up with. Well, it's impossible to begin with. Okay, man.
Well, see, that's the kind of...
it's funny because, Doc, man, I always say the same thing to these people. So with your vast amount of field experience, this is impossible. Because inevitably, fuckers ain't never set foot in a swamp, let alone outside their own, town or something like that to look at what's going on. You know what I mean?
Well, debunking philosophy is it's almost like a religion. And what I mean is this. Since you say that everything is impossible, so you never have to change your mind. You never have to look at any information. You never have to feel that your worldview is in jeopardy because your belief system says that X, Y, and Z is impossible. Therefore, right off the top, we can preclude any conversation about these anomalies.
Damn right. Damn right. You know what's funny too is I think that there's a general misunderstanding about people like you and I. I think that most people think, well, they just think everything's real. Like, dude, what are you talking about?
No, you will not hear us talking about the reality of leprechauns.
You know what I'm saying?
But
even aside from that,
the will of
you and I have had conversations on so many occasions about things. And, I look at really what I do is I evaluate in real time. I can't say for sure whether this report is real. All I can do is take the information, weigh it, and then basically choose a side because invariably there's this other side that really shouldn't even exist in the first place, but in my opinion. But the bottom line is I go in the field and I don't assume anything. I evaluate the evidence in real time.
Mark is not a Bigfoot believer.
No, man. No. Well, there's a huge difference. And I think a lot of people, we had that thing in the beginning of our show, and I considered it apropos where I say seeing is believing at the beginning of our show in the intro. But the reason I'm saying that is because there's a big eyeball staring at you from the bushes. You know what I mean? Like we were standing there. This guy's in the bushes and he's staring at us. I got the eyeball on film. You know what I mean? So I said, man, this is great. Let me put it together like this. But there's a very big difference. I was a believer before I saw. You know what I mean? And certainly before I've gone through all of this nonsense in the bushes that everybody says is impossible. And I look at the situation and this weekend's expedition was no exception. I got to actually witness firsthand a couple of individuals in different instances dismiss real-time evidence that the Bigfoot species is absolutely real, and not only that, but within 100 yards of us. And in both instances,
Mm-hmm.
you could see it. Well, in the first, it was definitely denial in both instances. But
Sure.
in the first instance, we're standing on this boardwalk about 100 yards from the Swanee River. It's an elevated boardwalk about 10 to 12 feet off of the cypress hammock, which was all mud. Cypress grows in water, so there's nothing but mud. You know what I mean? They prefer it. That's their area. That's the area that they just take root. And there's tracks and all this stuff down underneath it, and barefoot tracks, and you can see where something really big and with a couple of small individuals was coming in there and drinking out of this spring. And Melanie and I heard very clearly something tearing apart one of these cypress trees off about 100 yards past your field of vision, just outside of where you could see clearly, which is tell number one to me, first of all. You know what I mean? Like, let me just wander out into the cypress swamp barefoot through the mud that's, 2 feet deep, and then choose to sit and tear apart a cypress tree just outside your field of vision. Like, that's an activity that I'd love to participate in for no plausible reason. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, this is the consciousness on it. You know what I mean? And so I'm standing there and we hear this, and she's like, "You hearing this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it sounds like you can hear the fibers of the cypress being torn." Now, I don't know if you know anything about cypress, but it's a very flexible wood. It's very fibrous. The fibers are long and stringy. Right. And when you make, let's say, a fence slat to go on a fence down here, we have a lot of wood fencing. It's one of the harder ones to snap because you literally almost have to bend it, in half and fold it in on itself before it breaks.
Okay.
And when it's wet, it's even more flexible, and it's almost like
it's got incredible give to it, doesn't it?
Oh my God! And it's almost like the fiber. It reminds me of a sunflower seed fiber when you chew it with the shell.
Oh,
it's got that real, long fiber in it. You know what I mean? But obviously on a larger scale with the tree itself. But you could hear this thing tearing at it and grunting, like it was struggling. And I'm like sitting here and we're listening to it, and there's people everywhere. Standing everywhere, and they're all facing the spring, listening to the children, and they're screaming and having a good time, and people floating by on inner tubes, and beer cans, and Coca-Colas, and barbecue smoke, and all these good time things that, are obviously fascinating, but the reality that's just outside their consciousness, they're oblivious to. And Melanie and I noted this. So we continued on the boardwalk and we photographed. I was like, get this, get that, get that. We're documenting all this in a state of disbelief. I'm not saying that this is absolute at that point. I'm still saying this can't be. This can't be. So when I say that I'm not one of those guys and you're not one of those guys, I mean it. You know what I mean? And I'm in the field experiencing it. I'm not looking at something online, developing an opinion. You know what I mean? This is like real time. We proceed down the boardwalk a little further, and there's several more people in this little dog leg that they built in the boardwalk that went out onto the actual spring. So a sharp right dog leg, and the boardwalk continued straight ahead as well, right to the Swanee. But there were several people there, and this thing just let out a scream. Out and it was like, I looked at her and I'm like, "Did you just hear this?" And she's like, "Yeah, I did." And it was in the ambient with the rest of nature out in the swamp. And I looked over, and down the boardwalk there was a gentleman that, he heard it too. And he turned around and he looked for a second, and then he just casually dismissed it and went back to doing what he was doing, and that's representative of the entire situation where Bigfoot is concerned.
Well, let me tell you something. And see, that's the thing, people. So, I'm torn between, wanting to express myself clearly and not wanting to express myself at all.
I can relate.
But this is radio.
Yeah.
So I have seen in my career as all the things I've been, I have seen things that I don't want to be true. So this is not an issue of enthusiasm. There are things that exist in this world that I wish didn't. But that does not retard me from acknowledging that they do, because I had a professor in graduate school who told me something that I'll never forget. He said, you can believe two things. You can trust in two things. And he pointed, left eye, right eye.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you can trust that. So I'm not going to engage in a dialogue about the things that I, quote, believe. Because that's kind of esoteric. That's kind of philosophical. We all have that stuff.
Yeah, I believe we're past that. We're past that. That argument has been, I'm sorry, but it is, and I hate to put it like that, it's beneath me. That shit is beneath me. And I get irritated over it.
Belief is for church.
Know what I'm saying?
And I'm not saying that's not a bad thing, but that's where it belongs.
Yeah, well, yeah. Okay. It
so,
certainly has no place in not
in researching anything.
No, man, and especially in the field. That's right. Now I can say this. Based on the area that we did go into an investigation, mm-hmm. the fact that I didn't see one, I can tell you that based on the physical evidence that we found and the experiences that we had, I believe they're in that area as well. I can say that. I can put it that way. Because the smell was there, the exact smell that we confront on a weekly basis in our research area down here in South Florida. This is West Central Florida. And they were banging on stuff. They responded to us. They actually let us know that they were watching us because we turned to leave, and it was like, no, don't go. They started banging on stuff immediately as we turned to leave. Tracks galore, tree damage, orchestration and manipulation of downed trees, inexplicably, signature Bigfoot stuff. Eyewitness accounts from several different people in the area. Things inexplicable, man. 100-pound coolers with a 100-pound plus picnic table pinning the lid shut, being removed, and all the contents being taken from campsites. I mean, this is, so yeah, based on the evidence, everything points to the probability that the species is there. And actually, I can say that, at this point, it warrants further investigation. I believe they're there.
What can you tell, because I've had this question, and I tried to answer it, in my own way without, giving away too much or saying something that, I can't, justify. Bigfoot in Georgia. People have asked me, what is it going to be? What are you doing? Oh my God, Bigfoot, that kind of stuff. And maybe you've gotten the same thing. I don't know. But so what do you want this to be? And see, I think it's a cool conversation because we're going into this thing. What do you want this to be?
Well, I go into every investigation with an objective state of mind. I mean, I look at it like we'll see. You know what I mean? As far as the Bigfoot still being in the area. I don't automatically assume they're there specifically in the areas we go in. You know what I mean? I think it's hit or miss. And I think that, in using eyewitness testimony and using the report, essentially, to gain access to probable areas, I think that report, the Ware County report from 1816, clearly shows, or 1806, clearly shows, was that what it was, 1806?
1806, yeah.
Yeah, I think that clearly shows a territorial response to the intrusion of modern humans. And I think that there's a very high likelihood that if they are still in the area, and we all know that they exist, if they are still in the area, and I believe that, and I could say that, I believe Georgia is loaded with them based on the eyewitness accounts that I've read, especially since you and I have began the discussion about making the film. I think that, we'll make a scientific go at this, and we'll stay objective. But there are certain things we need to do that on the surface may appear unscientific, but really they're geared to basically affect a desired response. So in a sense, they are scientific. You know what I mean? We're gonna basically try to piss them off. And I think that, in gaining their curiosity, there's two ways that we can go about that. We can spend an extended period of time in areas that we're uncomfortable trying to find them, or we can clearly show that we're there to take the territory from them, and they will come in if they're there. And so I think we proceed under that, because the response is usually, if they're there, based on my experience in the field, it's overwhelming and immediate. And that way, we get instant documentation that they're in that particular spot, and we know where we're going to spend the rest of our time. Yes, we will be leaving immediately if they do come charging in, smashing stuff, but, they don't typically do it like that. But you never know. I mean, I look at the situation like, if we go in and we do a few things that have worked for us in the past, then we have a high probability of figuring out whether they're there right off the bat. And that really is the goal. Because, when we go into this, we're not funded by some university and have, a $60,000 a year paycheck. Nope. This is Agenda Earth, man. We got to get it done. You know what I mean? And so you and I and Melanie are going to be in areas that we're uncomfortable, and we're going to do our best to get this done as efficiently as possible. And that's the nature of it. I mean, unfortunately, but we'll get it done. I look at it like, it's a series, man. So whatever happens, there's a continuation in this. And even if we fail to document any evidence at all, it's only the first step. Because, I do have that understanding that eyewitnesses don't waste their time coming forward when they're not sure about something. Yeah, there's some kooks out there, but the majority of eyewitness accounts, these people were traumatized. And that's why they're jumping out of their skin to go, you need to know about this, because this is significant. You know what I mean? So I look at Georgia's database and the existing databases where you can actually read encounters, and some of them are incredible. Right. Absolutely incredible.
Well, remember, again, we can't sit here today and say, what we're going to find, what's going to happen. But I would simply say, look, in 1967, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin went out to get evidence of Bigfoot. And they made history.
Yeah.
And I'm quite sure that I'm very sure, I'm 100% sure that in their investigation, they were going out into locations based on established previous reports of sightings. They weren't going out willy-nilly, just hoping to get lucky. They were going out to areas that had documented sightings in the past. And now that doesn't guarantee you anything, but
it sure as hell worked out for them.
It worked out for them, but they were being logical. I mean, it's not.
Well, here's the other thing.
Yeah.
Our entire body of evidence was formulated from eyewitness testimony. Mm-hmm. The exact same type of circumstance, and in and of that, we're successful. And the body of evidence that we have now includes DNA. I mean, this is hair, DNA, all this stuff. I look at, what's going on, and I think we have a real good shot, specifically because, this stuff is ongoing. We're not dealing with something that was described accurately. that oh well, there's a couple of them, and
Right.
they're going to die off here, or if they haven't already, I mean, this is a primitive human primate, man, with primitive procreative drives, and that's conclusion that's developed from extended field research. We've seen and documented several juveniles in the same area. I mean, these things are everywhere. So across the board, I think we're looking at the same thing, and that's what we're, that's really what we're hoping to accomplish, to document the exact same thing that we're documenting here in South Florida, that we were able to begin to document on the west coast of Florida, that we have conclusively documented in Mayaca, that I documented in Ocala, that I was able to document in Dupuy Reserve, that I was able to document in the Hungryland Wildlife Management Area, that I was able to document in the J.W. Corbett Wildlife Management Area, that I was able to document in the Grassy Waters Preserve, and that another gentleman who actually was willing to learn took our lecture and immediately went out and was able to catch and document the species on film in the same area that I had an encounter in 2012, which will be released this week on the Bigfoot Researchers Journal, that footage. So what are we talking about? That we basically began documenting over the course of the weekend in West Central Florida. And so in following these patterns, that people in Canada who took my lecture, a gentleman in Ontario, by the name of Chad, is using our logic and the exact process by which we do what we do with the Bigfoot Researchers Journal in another country, essentially, same continent, Canada, and documenting the species successfully. He's doing it. We have someone in Michigan now, took the lecture, and is beginning the process, has already began to put together the clusters and examine the eyewitness reports, and is developing patterns. Contacted me yesterday, clearly stating he has an area now, he's sure of it, based on the formula that we use. And the formula doesn't involve anything other than common sense. It's not some big secret. It's basically you need to drop all that bag of rocks that you've absorbed about the subject and come back to planet Earth. You know what I mean? That's the formula. And use common sense on it. I mean, it's working everywhere. I've had people in Ohio contact me, use it. There's people all over the country that are, taking note of what we're doing and contacting me on a regular basis, and have been for over a year now, that are documenting this species using the basic principles that we use in our research. And that doesn't include believing everything is Bigfoot. That's not the case. You know what I'm saying? But it does require, like I said, dropping that 100-pound bag of rocks called denial and remaining objective in response to real-time stimulus in the field. When you feel like, there's something going on around you, trust your senses and start paying closer attention. If you're tracking something, you don't stop and then say, well, it was nothing. You have to follow up. That's what eventually proves theory. You know what I mean? You can't just stop. So all of this is ongoing. And, I look at this first, adventure that we're going on, Doc, as a landmark opportunity to begin to document the Bigfoot species through the Bigfoot Researchers Journal using our theory and consistently, proving it in Georgia as well. Film number one, babe. That's the way I look at it.
Oh, let me tell you, today I was flipping through one of these little catalogs that I get in the mail frequently. I was already starting to look at these little catalogs to purchase some gear, some of my field gear, to get back into the swing of things, so that I can properly position myself as was in the old days.
That's right.
And so I can, because I just feel that things will go right when I have all the right gear, and it's mostly psychological. But well, you know what? Now that you bring that up, though, and just take a look at this, because this is another piece of information that in what you're saying that explains what they are. You have to go through all of this to begin to feel comfortable. Right.
and then examining what they are and what we've caught on film. I mean, they're just laying around in it, babe. They're like, yeah, man, this is great.
See, I don't have
more mud on me here, man.
See, I don't have any pre-take. I'm not under any illusions that, you know, I mean, I have to have the creature comforts. I have to be properly. I mean, I'm going to look like a guy out of the Jules Verne novel.
But that's okay, man.
Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But in and of itself, it's not just you. That's my point. It's every human being in these areas. It doesn't matter. You're not going. I mean, all right. Anybody who would examine something, a wilderness area like the Okefenokee Swamp, and say that it's safe, is completely in denial. You need to prepare yourself, man.
Right.
This is like, you know, you step on the wrong snake at any moment. You know what I'm saying?
You know, a few minutes ago, you said, you know, you talked about these people taking the lectures, the guy in Canada, in Michigan. I can't help but use this as a perfectly targeted segue to talk about that for a minute. The lecture series.
Oh, yes.
Now, I'm going to try.
I know where you're going with this.
I'm going to try to stay in my chair. I really am going to try. Because I feel like I kind of caught a whiff of, you know, what goes on with some people. Now, Mark, you know, I know that, you know, we, you know, promoted this thing and Facebook and what have you on the show. And we, in the process, you know, published a toll-free number by which people could dial and get registered for this lecture series. And we've stressed this before, and it bears repeating. That toll-free number, it's 800-965-8504. It's for registering for the Cryptozoology 101, the Sasquatch Reality. That's what it's for.
Which, by the way, just to reinforce what's already stated very clearly in the past, in several instances, is on a fee basis.
Oh, that's next.
Yeah.
That's
you know, it's not free.
I'm going to get there in a minute. That's what the number is. Now I'll talk about what the number isn't. The number isn't for a person out in the public to call and make a Bigfoot sighting report. The number isn't for people to call and express their views on the nature of Bigfoot. The number isn't for a person to call and tell us how they are sure that they've got the final solution on what Bigfoot is, and that's it, and that's all. Okay?
No, it's not for any of those.
It's not for that. Now,
it's for registering, right? Isn't that what it's for?
It's for registering.
I could have swore that's what it was
for the lecture series, and it doesn't matter if you say, "Oh, somebody gave me this number." Oh, I heard this on YouTube. Because if you got this number, you got it from one of our shows, or you either heard us talking about it, or you saw one of the promotional pieces that we have on YouTube, that we have on Facebook, and that's a lecture series promotional piece. Now, and I'm going through this in a painstaking way so that I can maximize the clarity.
Well, you know what, too, Doc, man, it sounds like there's a couple of anti-fans out there who, you know, and we have them. We have those people, believe it or not. that are handing out the number under the auspice that it's where you would want to call to explain your theories to Dr. William Lester.
So they're kind of like pissing in the.
Yeah, well, I mean that's unfortunately a part of our entire social dynamic here. You know what I mean? I mean you're going to get the goofballs and I mean, hey man, I look at it like what strikes me as funny in talking with you about the phone calls that you've been getting is the sheer stupidity involved after you explain to them what the number is. Oh. You know what I mean? I mean, that cracks me up.
It's staggering.
They just continue to go on and on like they never even heard a word you said.
Well, they keep talking. They keep talking. And there's one gentleman, I'm not going to, one gentleman from out west, he was so intent on making sure that I knew that his situation was extraordinary. Okay? He was so intent of making sure that I knew that he had a once-in-a-lifetime situation. And the fact that I told him that was not the purpose of this number, he didn't give 3 shits to the wind. And he kept right on talking.
Well, you know what? You know what's funny because the nature of what we do with the Bigfoot Researchers Journal brings them out of the woodwork. So I get a lot of that. And I always say the same thing, man. Great. Grab a camera and start documenting it because you're just telling me this. You know what I mean? Like, I need to see something. Have a nice day. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of like the whole they jump out of portals thing. And all this other shit. It's dude, show me something. Show me something, dude.
I got the guy telling me Bigfoot was made out of light particles.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I'm like, well, aren't we all? Yeah.
It's great, man. It's great.
And so
we're drowning in a sea of this. You know that, right?
It's a swamp already.
Yeah.
So then the second part that you alluded to a minute ago,
the money.
So
hey, Doc, get this. Check this out. This is my job. This is my job. This is what I do.
Clearly, Mark,
as a job. You know what I mean?
Clearly, Mark. I mean, obviously. With your trust fund and everything, you don't need money. You don't have to pay bills. You don't have to eat.
Yeah, I know that fabulous trust fund.
Yeah, $8 or $10 million sitting in the bank. Right now, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay.
And not only that, but according to my critics, the massive Hollywood studio, I produced the CGI films and.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Because we got we got a conference call at 2 tomorrow with Spielberg.
Yeah, so they're just dying to give us $100 million for our next film.
I can't wait.
Bigfoot Georgia is completely underwritten, sir.
Absolutely.
Spielberg's jumping on it.
He's jumping on it, and
J.J. Abrams has agreed to direct.
Exactly.
He'll meet us in Ware County.
You'll think it's Star Trek.
He just bought some boots. He made the same comment you made earlier.
Yeah.
He's looking at some snake boots right now.
So, but no, I've received a couple of phone calls from individuals who expressed an interest in the lecture series and were quite taken aback when I had the temerity to ask them how they wish to make their payment.
Yeah. Yeah, because we set up 1-800 numbers for lectures so that we can do this, for free because, like you said, there's a massive trust fund.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And by the way, 1-8 toll-free numbers aren't free.
No.
They're free to call, but they're not free to get, and they're not free to maintain. So, I guess, and I think this is really great. It's a great conversation because, we talk about a lot of things, but sometimes we have to pull everything back into the real world. And nobody out there goes to their supermarket and expects to get a pound of hamburger meat for free, or a dozen eggs, or a gallon of milk, or a can of coffee.
Well, Doc, I think, there's a very logical explanation for all this stuff.
I can't wait to hear it.
And examining all these things, I look at the nature of everything that's been going on prior to the Bigfoot Researchers Journal and the full-time job that, it has become. And I look at the situation, and few and far between is a man that can dedicate himself 24 hours a day to something like this. That's why we don't see body evidence like this coming out of Washington. That's why we don't see a body of evidence like this coming out of any other state or any other country for that matter, because most people that are interested in this subject have a full-time job, and they play around and piss around on the edge of this and take pictures of stick structures. And when something does happen significant in the field, normally it's as they're running the other way. Whereas with the Bigfoot Researchers Journal, as you can clearly see in our films, we're running in because this is our job. See, that's the difference. You may think that this isn't a job out there, but I got news for you. The shit doesn't get filmed anywhere else. It's us. We're going in the field. We're working our asses off. Like I said, this is my second shift today. I've already worked a 9-hour day, and I'm an hour into this one, and I won't finish until 6:30 probably this morning. And I look at that, and it's like, what part of this is my job don't you get? What do you do for a living? I think it's admirable, whatever it is, and I expect the same respect, and so does Dr. Lester. And I think that people who violate that, Doc,
right.
I think that this is what needs to be said, right? If you think that 1-800 number is for Bigfoot sightings and that there's no charge for the 5 hours that I'm going to personally spend with you on video conference,
you're grossly mistaken.
Please, don't apply for membership in the Explorers Club.
No. In fact,
we don't want you.
Explorers Club. Look. If you call that number in the aforementioned way, you're only going to get 10 or 15 seconds of airtime.
Yeah, because
so the Explorers Club,
like, dude, what's the matter with you?
The Explorers Club's never going to come into it. So, yeah, but that may be a great future promotional line of dialogue. If you're dumb enough to misuse the toll-free number, the club's not for you.
The club is not for you. In fact, I won't take your money.
No.
Doc won't take your money. We don't want it.
We'll send you a very pleasant, courteous letter stamped rejected.
Big stamp right across. Bam!
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, you can't pay us.
You can't pay. Let me tell you, do you know how dumb you have to be for me not to take your money?
Oh, well, you know something, man? We're having this conversation, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, hey. So what, let me ask you this, man. Go back into your gear, man. What are you thinking? Because now you got me thinking, like,
well, no, it's just,
let's see what you think?
Look, obviously, in an Explorers Club kind of way, I get a number of these guy catalogs in the mail, selling guy stuff.
Well, yes.
And,
who doesn't?
Well, people who misuse the toll-free number.
Apparently.
They probably have gotten the July issue of, Better Home and Gardens.
Yes. No. It's J. Crew. It's J. Crew. Oh, yes. Or maybe it's the exact opposite. It's, I don't even want to get into it. Go ahead.
Something is some despicable publication. But,
Hustler.
Yeah. But no, I was just looking at just general outdoor guy gear, for the expedition, for the adventure, for the extended outing, for the exploratory, for the real life experience of an Explorers Club member, a real life outdoor expedition in pursuit of the Sasquatch in the state of Georgia. But just general things. I mean, I was looking through and said, well, I picked this up, picked that up, picked it. The old saying, it's better to have it and not need it
Oh,
than to need it and not have it.
yeah.
So it was
that's
just
true though. I mean,
it's just that kind of general stuff. I was just flipping through. Oh, it'd be cool to have this. It'd be cool to have that.
you see how expensive those snake boots are?
But yeah,
I paid $300 for mine, man. I don't even wear them.
I have, well, I know, but now fortunately, I have adequate boot wear. And by the way, if you don't own a pair of boots, the club's not for you. I just tell you straight up. Okay. If every pair of footwear you have stops at your ankle, the club isn't for you.
The club isn't for you, man.
But no, I've got that covered. But no, I was just looking for like general little hardware items, little hardware.
Oh, you know what, man? Did you happen to price a decent pair of binoculars, the smaller ones that you can hang from your neck, not the giant,
I didn't because I've got those
50 by 50s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Those big.
I actually have a pair of those that were donated to me by my brother a week ago. He says, I want to make a contribution. I'm like, oh, cool.
Oh.
Man. He's like, here. And he hands me these binoculars. I'm like, damn. If I put them on my neck, it'll probably break,
Like who's the manufacturer? Hubble?
Yeah, it's like some huge thing. I was like, yeah, I could just see that one. It's like, 5 hours into the hike, you've got like, a vertebra out of place. And
it's like
your sacral spine is like half snapped in half.
Got that planetarium lens on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking through it and I'm thinking to myself, man, they're really not all that good. Yeah. Being so large.
But yeah, no, I've got some decent binoculars because see, that's the thing because, listen, I'm going to need, cause there's only, I have a real thing about distance. And so I need a fairly good pair of binoculars.
Now, when you say you have a thing about distance, are you trying to, are you saying that you have a thing about maintaining a safe distance from the Sasquatch?
I'm totally talking about that.
I knew you were getting there.
So I mean, if I got a strong pair of binoculars that I can zoom in and get some good clarity.
There you go. Hey, did you ever wonder why it is they don't just put a camera in a pair of binoculars? I know they have zooms on cameras. I know all that stuff, but just think about the value of that for a second.
I don't know. On the surface of it, it sounds like it sounds logical.
Yeah, just take a picture of whatever's in the zoom of the binoculars.
Could you imagine?
I think I shouldn't have said that on air. That's probably $1 million idea, right?
Can you imagine? You have these binoculars. You have these. Photo binoculars.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And inside and on the side of the binoculars, there's a little USB port.
Oh man.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good idea. We ought to pitch that one to Cabela's or somebody.
Yeah, Bushnell.
Bushnell, there you go.
But yeah, I was just flipping through there, just looking for some general outdoor gear and just some stuff that would just make it a little bit more. I'm not trying to be like Lewis and Clark here. What's his face from the Himalayas?
Yeah. What was his name?
Yeah.
What was his name? Sir somebody?
No, dude, I am not looking to live that experience.
Yeah, well, we're going to be in a swamp, so, I mean, I can tell you this, man. If it's like anything like what I just went through on the weekend, we are in for some shit. So, I can tell you that right now.
Well, there's no question.
I come out of there, dude, and I was soaking wet from sweat. And my legs were killing me, man. I was like, oh my God, and the roughest part of it, believe it or not, was in the cypress heads, and really the whole area is a cypress head because it's normally flooded. This particular creek we were on, and there are thousands upon thousands of cypress shoots coming out of the ground. They're hard as a rock. They're about 12 inches high.
Yeah.
and they are hard as a rock. And buddy, let me tell you something. The grass, the weeds is all growing up because the area hasn't been flooded in so long. So you don't see them. You're walking along, and I wear a pair of soft boots. They're more like moccasins than anything else. They're just, waterproof, and they're neoprene with some type of a poly, like a polyvinyl chloride mix or something. But they only weigh an ounce. That's why I wear them. They're literally weigh an ounce, man. I mean, it's like wearing nothing. And you can hike for, twice as long because you don't have the restriction of, a big, tight, thick leather boot on you. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they're also very soft. And I almost broke my toe several times kicking those things, just stepping forward.
Oh, good God.
Through this hike. And you can expect that where we're going. I'm reasonably sure that when we get off in that swamp, that's what's going to be going on,
No, you got to have a hard toe boot.
Yeah, well, I refuse to alter what's been working. I'm like that. I find something and it works, and
I tell you one thing,
broken,
though,
don't fix it.
I tell you one thing. I've done field work. You've done field work, and let me tell you. And let me say something to a couple of guys out there who think they're gonna, take some kind of weekend jaunt out somewhere. Nothing will serve you better than a good hat.
Oh man, I have hats that I've had for 3 decades.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, once you, and every guy's different. Once you find your hat, it's like in that scene in Clash of the Titans when Harry Hamlin gets that shield, and you hear the voice of Laurence Olivier. He says, "Guard it well, for one day it may guard your life."
That's right. No, that's it, man.
I'm telling you, got.
Hey, listen, I have a conversation. There's an episode in the Bigfoot Researchers Journal where we're in the car on our way somewhere, and I had already had, I lose my hat, I start throwing a fit. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
I cannot. This hat's been with me. It was literally with me in the field when I was in the military. So it's been on the head of 2 different eyewitnesses. My son wore it for during his encounter in Mayaka where he saw one. I've seen it now. At this point, I've had 7 actual visuals of the species, and I've had it on my head every single time. It's been through hell with me and back. I've fished in it thousands of times, and so I leave the house with boots on. It's on my head, and if I can't find it, I'm in a state of panic. I don't know what it is. I have hat anxiety, and Melanie was like, actually suggesting that I retire it because it's so ratty. It's just, but I can't even, she's like, well, we'll frame it. And I'm like, I can't look at it and not put it on.
Right.
It's like, putting a cold beer in front of a thirsty guy.
That's like, the teasing.
Yeah. And not only that, but it's like the beer that you've been drinking your whole life. It's just something about it. So yeah, man, a hat becomes a part of your persona.
Right.
And it really does become, it's internalized. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. I did describe it like this. It's like Linus with his blanket.
Exactly.
As unmanly as that sounds, you will have to pry this hat from my cold, dead hands.
Yeah.
Period.
It's like, you see McCartney, he's got to have that Hofner bass or you think something's wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just expect to see it, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Or right. Eddie Van Halen with it was the Kramer, and then he switched out, which is right. But now he plays a PV. You know what I mean?
Right.
Jimmy Page with the Les Paul.
With the Les Paul.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, me with the Les Paul, and it's unfortunate because now I've been forced in the last couple weeks or month or so to be playing on a Fender, and it's like alien. It's like putting another hat on. You can't do that. You know what I mean?
Oh well,
I mean, granted, I have several, but that one.
What is it? What is it? What when you say Fender? Is it a Strat or what is you playing?
Yeah, it's a Strat, and it's not the neck. It's got an excellent neck. I'm beating the frame off of this thing.
Right.
But the problem is the positioning of the knobs. I play a lot of rhythm, and it requires heavy picking on chords. And my hand with my muting techniques that I use are real close to the Floyd Rose. I prefer a fixed bridge guitar as opposed to a Floyd Rose because I don't play a lot of lead. I write a lot of rhythms. But in addition to that, as I play, I'm very aggressive with my right hand because I play right-handed. And when I'm picking, my hand invariably finds that damn volume knob and starts to turn the guitar down. So I'm losing all this gain, and I'm going, what the hell's wrong with this thing? You know what I mean? I look down and the volume's all the way down on 2 instead of like 7,
Right.
or 8. So it just drives me nuts. The ideal strat for me would be where several different people. I think Eddie Van Halen's done it. I think Steve Vai's done it. Doesn't have to be a Fender, but the Stratocaster model typically has those the treble and the bass and then the volume. Those 3 knobs are in a position where those pros will actually have their guitars reworked and those knobs moved. I think Stevie Ray Vaughan did the same thing, but I'm just going to get another Les Paul model. You know what I mean? Because I like them. I'm a Les Paul guy. That's my hat, sir.
Well, look, the guys have their signature.
Yeah, I will say this though: the neck on this thing is incredible. I mean, if I could take the neck off, or have this particular neck. Although I don't particularly care for the feminine headstock that it has, but
Oh, really? It's got a frilly.
Well, it's just kind of like it's just cliche music kind of. It's just not for me, man. I need something. My guitar has to look like a club, a basic club.
There's something wrong about it.
Beat you with it,
But there's something wrong with the guitar. When a guitar is so pretty that. You know what I mean? It's like
I do actually.
I mean,
it throws me off. It throws me off. I've had a couple pretty ones in my early days, and it was a novelty, and I think that attracts a lot of people, the novelty of it. But over the years, as you gain experience on an instrument, you begin to see that 99% of the instruments that are sold out there were never touched by a luthier. These huge volume distributors that have taken over the small shops, because corporate America, they do the same thing in every single possible capitalist market. You know what I mean? Guitars are no exception. You go into these stores like the GC, I'll just say it that way.
The big GC, yeah.
Or SA. And
or SA.
What you're getting is you're getting a 12-year-old's guitar that's never been touched by a luthier. And it's for people who you buy instruments from there, and it's really for people who don't know any better. It's the aesthetics. It's the novelty of a good looking instrument, has nothing to do with. And then you go inside the soundproof room, and there's 5 real guitars in the entire store,
right? And
they are all over $5,000. You know what I mean? So and it's like overpriced bullshit, and then and overpriced bullshit again outside that room. So when you look at it, it's but as you gain experience, you begin to realize these things. And I've had more what I call Frankensteins than any other, all my guitars, you know what I mean? This last one I played on for a year before it unfortunately had an accident in the vehicle. I played on it for like a year. It was the prettiest instrument I've had in a while, but it was still clubbish, you know what I mean? I refer to my guitars as the club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm getting ready to hit you with it. That's just the bottom line. I gotta have it. It's gotta be scarred up like me. And, it doesn't take me long to do that. A couple months, man, because I play voraciously every day,
Right.
So, but,
I miss
all
the days
instruments hard to find, man.
I miss the days of the small independent music shops, because I can remember very clearly, you go over here, there was a place called Atlanta Discount Music, which was in Midtown. You go over there, see what's happening. That was always kind of a hippy dippy place, so you get that vibe. Each of the stores had a vibe.
Oh yes, we had them here too.
Right. You drive somewhere else. We had a place called Rhythm City. That was like the big corporate type place where the guys say, "May I help you, sir?"
God, that drives me nuts.
You had that kind of place, and then you had this little place, the little back somewhere, way in the back somewhere. They didn't even have an address.
Yeah, we had that too. It's called Sound Shack.
Yeah. Everybody knew where it was.
You could actually trade music in there.
Right.
I could trade cassettes and vinyl.
Yeah.
And then the CDs came, and it was a harbinger of like the end of everything. You know what I mean? Right. It was like then the internet, and it's like, oh God, it's like, well, I can get it here for free and steal it. It's like, why? Fuck.
And so now what you're left doing, I end up doing the same. You go online, you go to musiciansenemy.com. You know that one.
Yep.
And you go there, and then you go to there's one called Stinkwater.
Yeah, I see that one as well.
Stinkwater.com.
Yeah.
They have their thing. And, of course, the big one, I mean, the big catch-all one is, rainforest.com. You know that one. They sell everything.
Yeah.
Rainforest.com?
Rainforest.com, baby.
Okay. Yeah. And you can get it cheap. I mean, I look at what happened, it was, the music business has changed so much with the internet. It's really a great topic too, man. I can talk about music and instruments and all that stuff. I'll tell you something right now. I foresaw all of this. And although on the surface at the beginning, it seemed as if those who had screwed the artists for so long were about to get their asses handed to them. They have figured out a way. And they've gone right back into it. And it's, the artist does have more creative control. I'll say it that way. But it's been more difficult, I think, for the artist. And I think that tour revenue is really where most of the artist's income does come. You know what I mean? Oh, man. Listen, let me tell you something. I think these record labels, they finally got, after like 60 years, and they must be just chomping at the bit. I heard an interview. You remember, you ever seen the documentary Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll, which was about Chuck Berry?
Yeah, I love that documentary.
Great. Isn't it good? But you remember he talked about at some point, like a 45 record single was 59 cents. And he said he made 1 penny.
Yeah, that's the record industry for you.
Now, that means 58 cents of a 59-cent record was going somewhere other than the artist, and not just an artist, but an innovator.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if
an innovator, man.
If there's no Chuck Berry, there's nothing after, right?
Man. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Well, you look at all of that stuff, and what you see is the greed that really, and you can trace this into almost every single incredible artist that has come along for the last 70 years.
Yeah.
You can trace this disease into their life and eventually a lot of death that these people just sucked them dry. And there are a lot of people who paved the way for rock and roll especially, who ended up dying broke because of these people. And these people who screwed them are still living high on the hog on royalties from the music that these people made who did, in fact, die broke. I mean, I look at Creedence Clearwater Revival, and John Fogerty got so screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, we're talking about, ridiculous stuff. Ridiculous stuff.
I mean, when you think about their body, not even their body of work, but their body of hit material.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
He should have been a multi-millionaire 10 times over.
My God, man. I mean, that guy has actually played at the Super Bowl.
Right.
Like, dude, what are we having these conversations about? This dude got screwed. Let's make it right. Somebody's getting the royalties out there, because that music is played all across the country on classic rock stations every single day.
Everywhere.
Every single day. And it has been. I grew up on it. You grew up on it.
Yes.
All these people grew up on it. And they're just like, oblivious to the fact that this guy's been, screwed. He's not the only one. Bob Seger, bunk-ass contract, got screwed out of most of his money. I could go on for hours. You can't name me an artist in the early days that wasn't taking it up the other end. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line.
Those guys did not know that they were entering a business. They thought they were artists. They considered themselves writers. They considered themselves performers. They considered themselves creative entities. They did not know that they were in an industry that thrived on the vampiric philosophy.
Oh, my God, man. Yeah, well, I'll give you a case in point. Eddie Van Halen, right? When Van Halen first started, they signed a contract that basically gave rights to the record label to incorporate certain cover material on every album. And Eddie Van Halen was so up in arms about that. That's one of the reasons why they took Roy Orbison's song Pretty Woman and redid it. They had no choice. It's part of their contract. It's not just that song. They did a few of them. And
You Really Got Me?
a bunch of different ones, the Kinks, all this stuff, right? And they did really a lot of justice to both of those songs. You Really Got Me is a stellar revision on that Kinks tune.
It's really hard to mess that up, yeah.
Oh my God, man! You know what I mean? But Eddie, I mean, it's Eddie, man. You know what I mean? Eddie was a pioneer, and you know, it's interesting because you in the story that when it eventually did come out, you know, there was some infighting between him and David Lee Roth, and Eddie basically took money all along, started saving money. He built 5150, which is his property in his studio. Mm-hmm. And when they were getting ready to go in to record Mean Streets, essentially, he basically told them, go screw yourself. You know what I mean? And he took and recorded that album and wouldn't give it to him until he was satisfied with it, basically violated his contract and was just like, well, this is what we're doing, and I'm not in agreement anymore. And it actually literally took him to violate a contract to get an album with just his music on it. You look at almost everything that came after that. I mean, to me, Mean Streets is the quintessential Van Halen album. I mean, Van Halen 2, awesome. You know, Diver Down, Women and Children First, and then Mean Streets. You know, it's just, I look at that album and you're getting pure Eddie Van Halen. And it's funny because most of those songs he'd had for years, but the record company wouldn't let him put them on the album. So, you know, I mean, this is real. This is absolutely real. This has been going on for so long, man. Yeah. I like the fact that I'm getting ready to put a band together. I've been playing with a guy now for a while.
All right.
And we've got a lot of material because I write, and I've been writing for 20 years. And so we have no shortage, acoustic, heavy, you know, light rock, you name it. And so we're picking some songs and all that stuff. We're auditioning a drummer here in about a week or so, 10 days. And, you know, we're still looking for a bass player, but we have opportunities that we don't need a record label anymore.
No.
And that's fabulous. You know what I mean? We can promote ourselves and you know, I mean, but playing out is where it's all about. That's why I like to play out. You know what I mean? I love playing and having an audience and all that kind of stuff. I mean, so that's definitely gonna take off. You know.
You know, speaking of, one of the things I like about Mark is that he gives underhand opportunities for segues. Just underhand pitches. Talking about these industries and screwing people. Well, you know, we were talking earlier off the air, and we were just kind of going back and forth because we're both really big fans of the genre of superheroes.
Oh yes.
And I asked you, had you know, back in the day, remember seeing the Green Hornet TV show? And he was like, oh yeah.
Oh, I loved it, man.
And yeah, and so I did too. And I mean, I just so many memories come flooding back in. Well, so when you were talking about a minute ago with Van Halen and these other people, well, of course, it was one of the great TV shows, one of the great action adventure TV shows. Of course, everybody knows, starring Bruce Lee as Kato, and it was really his first foray into television. Well, what a lot of people may not know, I don't know, but that show, which went into production in late 1966 or mid 1966, let me say. That show was produced by a man named William Dozier. William Dozier was the producer of Batman, which hit the airways in January of 1966. So you had this one producer producing these two superhero shows and just kind of swirling around this whole, you know, it was, like I said, it was an 8-year-old boy's fantasy universe. But the Green Hornet only ran for one season.
Yeah, I always wondered about that. What's the backstory?
Okay. Well, I once interviewed Van Williams, of course, the great Van Williams who played the Green Hornet. And I asked the same question. And he said to me, number one, it never had anything to do with ratings. We always got numbers. It never had anything to do. He said we got numbers because of the what do you call we got Batman, we got, trailed off from Batman numbers.
Right.
You got kids watching both shows. You had fans of each show, and you had crossover fans.
Yeah, because back then it was just one station. They were both right after. One was after the other.
They were just yeah. I mean, you just
sat there and watched it, eating your peanut butter Captain Crunch.
I mean, what kind of kid? You think you're going to sit there and watch Batman and then not sit there and watch the Green Hornet? Please.
Yeah, I know. And
right?
They had that same kind of announcer kind of thing going on.
That was his voice. That was William Dozier's voice.
Okay.
Tune in next week.
Yeah.
Right.
Great, man. It just was it was campy. It was great, man. You know what I mean?
The Cape Crusaders are done for, or are they?
Or are they? Yeah.
Right. So anyway, he said, here was the deal. Batman was shot basically as a cliffhanger type show. Right? You have part one, and they're always in some kind of situation, right? It's a cliffhanger.
Well, it's good marketing.
It's great marketing. But the Green Hornet was a 1.5-hour episode, self-contained show. And the producers and Van Williams and Bruce Lee, everybody involved with the show believed that if they went to a 1-hour format, they could open up the characters, they could open up the storylines, they could get a little bit more, which is true.
100%.
Right. And the network said, nah. Okay. Let's
Par
just keep
for the course.
Right. The suits, the guys up in the offices probably never saw the show. And so it turned into this power struggle. The shows got to grow or die. Of course, the network said, well, let it die. Now, here's the real rub. And this really impacted Bruce Lee most of all. While the Green Hornet was being produced, Bruce Lee, being smart enough to know that no series lasts forever, was already in the developmental stages of another series.
Mm-hmm.
And the series was purchased by the networks.
Hey. It's an Eastern, but it's a Western. That's the greatest description.
Well, okay, so you already know this part. Well,
I do. I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, man. So.
Bruce Lee developed the Kung Fu TV show. And because of the racist bullshit of that era in Hollywood, instead of casting Bruce Lee, the world's greatest martial artist, it was David Carradine. Now, this is not anything against David Carradine.
No, because I actually love the show.
Right. Yeah. But it
would have been so much better with Bruce.
But to show you the racism, they didn't hire Bruce Lee, but they hired Carradine and made him look Asian.
That's right.
What the hell?
Yeah, I know, man. Well, it's too realistic. It's too much.
Yeah. So, it staggers, and I can't imagine how Bruce Lee must have felt. But
I imagine he was put off.
Put off,
man. I mean, basically, they stole his intellectual property.
They stole his intellectual property, and then they didn't even cast him.
That's terrible.
Right. So, but anyway.
But isn't that apropos or no, that's the wrong word. Isn't that par for the course? Because still exactly what goes on.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's like, if you don't have a fucking army of attorneys guarding your shit, you're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, but it's proof it's not enough to just have good ideas, but
it's not.
It is a great way to, segue into this thing of superheroes. I mean, because that takes me back decades. And a lot of people don't realize, if you're under 30, and you think that this great legacy of like superheroes and all of this stuff, kind of starts with, George Clooney playing Batman or whatever. Whatever. It doesn't. I mean, this goes back decades, and you must remember, like, Mark and I are in our 40s. I can tell you, in the afternoon after school, Superman was George Reeves. I don't mean Christopher Reeve. That came at that time too. Christopher Reeve, I think that came out in 77, 78. But what I was looking at on television was George Reeves.
That's right. And that god awful wind sound that they had every time he left the ground.
It sounded like he was in a cyclone. He was
that was great. I used to love that show, though.
He was in an absolute cyclone. It sounded like the worst tsunami in the world.
It did, didn't it? It was like a hurricane. Right. You remember the way the sparks used to bounce off his chest?
Well, these dumb guys
shoot him.
I'm like, dude, you're a criminal in Metropolis.
In spite of.
And you're pulling a gun on Superman. What are you doing?
Man.
Right. But yeah, so can you know what I'm saying? Dude, you're in Metropolis. You know that Superman is there.
Isn't it great?
And so you're going to pull a pistol on him? Oh, and here's what I love. If the bullets don't work, I'll pistol whip him.
Yeah, no, or I'll hit him with a crowbar.
Yeah. Because that's more effective.
Yeah, it's more effective, man.
But yeah, so
and it had all of the elements of classic male symbolism too, man. They were using that like you wouldn't believe with the woman always in distress. I mean, it's so classic.
It was just
it was
total He-Man. It was total He-Man stuff, and it was just like you would eat it up.
Oh yeah, it made me want to go run out and save some woman tied to train tracks. Like any
Absolutely.
woman, I was prepared to do that.
Falling off the ledge of a building, or being pushed off a cliff, or all of these various traps.
You name it.
So. And then of course, even then, I mean, there were animated shows. I remember, and to this day, I have an incredible affinity for that old original Spider-Man cartoon.
Oh, I love it.
I mean,
talking about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That was a great show, man.
That was a great cartoon. I mean, like I said, I remember a few years ago when they put that out on DVD, I almost jumped into the computer to order
to get it.
Yeah. And so it set a remarkable foundation in my life.
Same here.
With these superheroes and comic books and
I mean, I loved comic books to death. So when I was, it's funny because I was reading the comics long before I got to see the re-airs of the original Superman with George Reeves.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? So, and I was never a real big DC guy to begin with.
Right.
Just because of the way they kind of, I don't know. I was always attracted to the darker kind of things.
Right.
Conan was one of my favorite ones. I liked Marvel a lot, and a lot of their guys. Batman, I think, was probably my favorite DC.
Of course.
Until I saw Aquaman. Once I started because I was really into the ocean and sharks and all that stuff, in spite of the fact we lived in Ohio. but
Right.
I loved every aspect about Aquaman. And it's funny. There's an interesting story behind. Here's one that a lot of people never really even got to see or don't remember. Do you remember the actual show? And it was serious. It was a 1 hour. It was on right after The Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby. It was on at 10 p.m. It was called The Man from Atlantis.
Patrick Duffy.
Patrick Duffy. You remember that?
Yeah.
That was supposed to be Aquaman. But there was some type of a
Licensing
situation,
thing, yeah.
where they wanted too much money, and so they just called it something else and changed the character.
Well, yeah, of course. And by the way, I just read a couple weeks ago that Patrick Duffy is actually the Man from Atlantis is its own franchise now.
Right.
He's actually authoring a series of graphic novels of the character.
Well, I mean, it's a good character. It really is. It
is Aquaman. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's just without DC.
Without DC's permission.
yeah. How do we get around paying these chumps? It's again that whole thing where we don't want to pay you. So, but it's the same thing, man. And that, I love that show, man. I don't think it was on for more than a season, though.
I don't think so.
But I think that was probably a legal dispute. I'm sure.
But the same thing, though, man. It was a great weekly fantasy superhero action adventure thing. I was there. I loved it. I was there with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. Yeah, it's same thing.
Oh, I loved it, man.
We never missed the Incredible Hulk.
No way, man. Absolutely no way. No way. It's interesting because they have the new Aquaman in this Justice League film that's coming soon.
Nice.
It's Jason Momoa. That's the guy that played the new Conan Barbarian flick, and this guy is intense. And so I think DC is really reprising this role because they definitely got the right guy for this. I mean, this dude looks
like him.
He looks like
got the yellow hair.
No, it's dark. He looks like the guy with the trident, the Greek god
Poseidon. He
looks exactly like you would perceive Poseidon to look in these previous images and the symbolism that Hollywood has represented Poseidon. They gave him a very Poseidonish-esque type look. And Jason Momoa is intense, man. I'm talking about this guy's intense. I mean, he's been on Game of Thrones. He played
Aquaman is a great character. I mean, the very first thing I remember about Aquaman was that his colors reminded me of one of the fish of the coral reefs. Number one, I thought that was very cool. But the other thing was that aquatic telepathy.
Oh man!
Oh my God!
He was running shit. He was running everything down there, dude. Yeah, no, it was awesome. I'm actually, I'm staring at a photo here. I want to try to show you this photo. I thought this was great. I think they got the right guy. I really do. And,
you can Skype it over to me.
I'm going to send it to you right now. It should be there. This dude is serious. You get that photo?
I got it. Hold on. I'm just opening it up.
Yeah, man. It's
yeah.
Jason Momoa is a hell of an actor, man, and he's intense. So he's going to bring a level of intensity to that Aquaman character that is possibly going to spawn something. Picking a guy like that is saying we want to make an Aquaman film. They're reprising that role. I got news for you. I'm predicting it right now. There's going to be an Aquaman film. Because that's not a one-off. You don't pick this guy for a one-off. I mean, he's been in so many different series, and his performances are so intense, and he's such a powerful actor.
I mean, it's going to be like the guy, whatever this boy's name is, who played Captain America. Obviously, they're going to integrate this guy into a Justice League movie situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's already. It's my understanding they already started shooting all this stuff. So this is happening. Which I'm excited about it. I mean, this is going to be. I love the Dark Knight series, and I think they got the right director. I think they did a good job. There are a few things I didn't like about Batman's performance. You know, I mean, whatever. We talked about that. The voice thing.
I'm gonna clean up the streets of Gotham. I mean, he sounds like a bad guy from Dick Tracy.
Yeah, he does actually. Yeah. So, but you know, at the same time, the writing and the direction, all three of those films. Of course, Heath Ledger's performance in the second one, but you know, that's the DC rebirth. I'm very happy about because it offers an alternative. Because you have Marvel putting out in a certain time of the year, then you have the DC films, so you're getting superheroes all year long. You know what I mean? And there's no shortage of films at this point. I mean, I don't know how many. What do we have? 15, 18 films now
I don't know.
Both these camps. I mean, we have 3 Captain Americas. We have 3 Iron Mans. We have 2 Avengers. That's 8 right there. We have 2 Hulk films. They need to do another Hulk film. We have 3 Batman films.
Right.
We have what else do we have? Let's see. We have the series, which incidentally wasn't all that bad. The what the hell was it called again? I was watching it 2 days ago. I can't even remember. You know, Marvel. It's S.H.I.E.L.D. What's the name of that show?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's not bad. They have some interesting stuff. You got a lot to get done in 1 hour here. You know what I mean? And they're trying to do that where there's, for the most part, where there's, you know, the conclusion at the end of the episode. I think they do a pretty good job on that. It's interesting. But this, I'm interested in this. I think this guy's going to bring some power to that role, and I can't wait to see this film. You know, hopefully they don't screw it up. I don't know how they could, but you know.
Oh, don't say that.
Well, I mean, you know, you got this guy. I think Jared Leto in the Justice League, and then you have Suicide Squad. Jared Leto playing the Joker. I'm curious about that one. I'm very curious about that one. Have you seen any of this?
I haven't seen him cast as the Joker, but I mean,
the Joker looks very different. I'll just say it that way.
See,
there's only so far you can go with the reprisal thing.
I think you got to be careful.
Yeah, and you know, I'm hoping that his performance outweighs the shock of his appearance.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He looks. I mean, it's not like they. Well, yeah, they did. They twisted it. They did.
In my view, because you know, all guys have a perspective. I understand it, but to me, you have to be careful because at the end of the day, talking about DC, Marvel, you have to have a certain point of identification. So when I look at this guy, I've got to know in 1 second that it's the Joker.
Yeah, I struggled with that for a second there. Yeah. But at the same time, I get that they're trying to, I mean, look at the last guy who played the Joker and how he did it. And what are you going to do? Try to follow that? I mean, Heath Ledger, I really enjoyed his performance.
Right.
I think he brought a new dynamic to it. At the same time, sticking to the roots of the character, I think he did a damn good job. Everything with that whole situation was unfortunate afterwards, but
yeah.
You know, I mean, I liked him as an actor. I thought he was a pretty decent actor. He had great characters, chose his films wisely, and that's like this Joker guy, man. I don't know. He's a good actor though. Jared Leto's a good actor. I enjoyed a lot of his performances in the past. So who knows what he's going to do? The Suicide Squad thing is interesting.
Yeah, well, I think that they have an opportunity here to, you know, not, you know, don't remake the Watchmen, and there's always a challenge when you are working with what might be perceived as more obscure characters and titles.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's an opportunity to really do, just like, you know, with Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, now, you know, as a kid, I did not read that particular title. I certainly knew who they were. But within the parameters of having fun and being creative, you cannot go too far afield with characters who exist in a universe with pre-existing backstories. You just can't. And first of all, you're not going to make it better. You know, you're not going to take Superman and put a W on his chest. What are you talking about? You know, in my view, you really never have to write another new story at all. Civil War is an old story. You know, the Civil War movie? That's an old story. Comic book guys know that's not a new story.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's not a new story. You don't have to make up new stories.
No. But you know, it's interesting when you talk about all that stuff. I like the way they're spinning it into other aspects, like the television thing. The first inclination that they had an idea for the Suicide Squad was, I think, season 3 of Arrow, which is DC.
Right.
I think it's DC.
Yeah.
No, DC Arrow. And I actually, that was a good. I think they got the right guy for it. It was a pretty good series.
I did too.
Man.
I did too. I think
Colin O'Connell did a hell of a job. It's Chris O'Connell's brother. I think he did a hell of a job. I didn't even know the guy was alive. I didn't know he had a brother, Chris O'Connell. You know, and he turned out to be pretty badass. I thought that was a great show. But in season 3, they actually get together with the Suicide Squad. Right. Now the Joker's not actually in there yet. But, man, you know, I was like, the Suicide Squad. And I started remembering, and I'm thinking, damn, that was a comic. Now I remember all this now. And so, you know, then it was maybe 6 months later that I started to see that they were thinking about doing a movie and all that stuff. I think that's going to be interesting, man. I really do. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, too, was as far as reprisals go, the Punisher film with Thomas Jane was pretty good. But I think he was not. I don't like the fact that they cast Thomas Jane. Now, the second Punisher movie was called Warzone, Punisher Warzone, and they cast Ray Stevenson, and they had a French director, a female. And now that movie, I'll tell you, is one of the most graphic movies that you will ever see. As far as a superhero movie, the director stayed true to the graphic nature of like how this guy killed people in the comics. Right. And I mean, you see stuff like, whoa, dude. You know what I mean? It's like, holy, did he just do that? The graphic violence in that movie, I liked it. I thought Warzone was better than the one that they really over-promoted in Hollywood. You know what I mean? I mean, the whole Punisher thing with John Travolta and all this stuff. I mean, it was a decent film, but it just, there were aspects of it that, you know, the Punisher was the Punisher, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this guy was renowned for pissing off other superheroes because when he killed somebody, he didn't just kill them, he punished them. You know what I mean? Like, that's his freaking whole thing, you know? And it was always that. It was graphic, and they wouldn't show, of course, in the comics it was symbolized and it was insinuated, but you knew what he was doing to these people. You know what I mean? And so that second film, I don't know, did you see it, Warzone?
I don't think I have, but
I'm going to go ahead and recommend that film
right
now to anybody who's a Punisher fan. And if you want to see a graphic superhero movie with unbridled graphic violence, that's your film. Let me explain something to you. And I thought it was interesting because I didn't know what to expect because they had a female French director of all, you know, people. I was like, what is this, man?
Yeah, oh my God.
But it turned out that I think she did a better job than they did on the first film. And kudos to her because that character, they brought his ass to life in that. I'll tell you right now. It's more. It was when they first started to get real with the superhero thing, and that was one of the first movies that came out where you were like, whoa, this is not campy in the least bit. You know what I mean? It was almost sickening, in fact. But that was really what the Punisher ultimately was. You know, represented was sickening violence, you know? So, I don't know, whatever. But that's my opinion. That film is stellar, dude.
Now, where DC, I think, has excelled in the last several years has been in their animated productions.
Oh, those are fabulous, man.
Okay.
I love the Batman animations, man. Just so good.
So they started out in like 1990 with Batman the Animated Series, and they piggybacked, they ran it, then they started Superman the Animated Series, and then they started the Justice League, and I can tell you, if you are in any way predisposed to be interested in this genre, these animated programs will suck you in like you would not believe. Okay, the writing, the production of it, it's by and large, it's not for 6-year-olds.
No.
Okay, so there's a level of maturity to these stories.
Oh, it's the Batman animated series that you would see on at 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's dark.
And so, and I know for a fact, obviously all of this stuff is on DVD, but these particular series are on Netflix as well, and I highly recommend those. Now,
well, how about the Batman? I mean, speaking of those, that whole series, the Batman where he comes out of retirement, that film is awesome.
That's called, what is it, like Tales of the Dark Knight or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. He's been retired for 10 years.
Yeah.
And nobody believes that he was real. You know what I mean? It's like he was a ghost in the tales, and the police officers that are still on the force that were there when he was still there are forced to deal with these new rookies that have only been around since Batman's been retired, right. And they don't even believe it. And they're trying to arrest him, and the old rookies are like, son, you don't want to do that. Leave that man alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is.
You don't want to do that, fool.
That is very good. Now, but
it's funny as shit because one of the rookies takes a shot at him.
Really?
And it kind of careens off of his shoulder, and he just shoots a look at him he just didn't even turn his body around. He just kind of shoots a look at the rookie, and the rookie's like, and the cop's like, put that thing. The veteran's like, put that thing away before you hurt yourself, son.
Yeah. My God. But yeah, no, but that
great themes, man. Great themes.
That is a very good one. DC, there's a body of animated films that DC has done, and I'm just going to throw the titles out so people can write it down or look them up. And I'm telling you, every one that I'm going to say, I recommend 1,000,000 times over. Okay, let's go. There's one called Batman Year One.
Excellent.
I
gave that a 9. I'm giving that a 9. Please continue. I'm going to give you my ratings. Go. Okay. No, I love that film, man.
It's great. We have Justice League Crisis on Two Earths.
Excellent. I'm going to give that one an 8.5.
James Woods does the voice of Owlman.
That's good, man.
Okay. Let's see. What do we have? We have Batman Under the Red Hood.
I gave that a 10. I gave Red Hood a 10. We both know who the Red Hood was. Yes. It's just unbelievable.
No spoilers.
They spun that shit in there. I was like, what? Really good.
That's really good. Now, this is a darker. I really loved Justice League New Frontier.
Excellent. I gave that a 9 as well.
Cold Era.
Excellent.
Cold War. It's Cold War era story. Oh my God. Plus you see the origin of Green Lantern in that film. Justice League New Frontier. Check it out. Let's see.
How about the Wonder Woman film?
Wonder Woman.
That's excellent too.
Shows her origin. And at the very end, there's the appearance of, I won't say it, but her greatest adversary.
That's correct.
Let's see. There is
the Captain America, Iron Man stuff. But that's not DC though.
That's not DC. But there's some titles that I'm not. Let's see. There's Justice League. We said Crisis on Two Earths. We said New Frontier. Batman Year One. Oh. There's one called Superman, Batman, Public Enemy.
Yeah, that's good too.
Okay.
That's really good.
That's really good.
Yeah, man, that's really good.
That's really good.
That's Superman trying to calm Batman down.
Right.
Yeah. As if,
right?
That was excellent, man. That was well made.
Very good. These are animated films.
Yeah, and they're actually and it's not. They're adult themes.
Oh, absolutely.
Completely adult themed. And yeah, like I said, man, this is one of those 11 o'clock superhero films.
Just absolutely.
I used to put them on at 11, and when I wasn't working nights with you, and I'd watch I'd watch them till 2:30 in the morning. 4 of them, man. I love it. It's a shame there's not more of them.
Well, yeah, I think they may put out one or two a year. I think. Yeah. There've been some. There are some that I think are good that are lesser known. There's one called the Flashpoint, which
Flashpoint's really good.
That's good. There is.
But see, this is where DC is outdoing Marvel in their animation.
In their animated films, yeah.
Marvel's animation, they're making them, but they're still campy, and it's like they're not adult themed, even though they appear to be. Like the Captain America Iron Man thing, it's more. There's too many jokes in it, and it's just, you know what I mean? It's like, damn, you had this opportunity, dude. It's more like, child oriented, and I kind of pissed me off.
I just pulled up a list. I just found my list. Okay, here we go. So we said, now these are good ones that I have not mentioned. Batman Assault on Arkham, which is crazy good, and you talk about violent. Okay. There is Superman Doomsday. There is
Doomsday Superman was a popular comic.
Right.
That is an excellent film.
Excellent film. There is Justice League Doom, which you actually get to see the formation of the Legion of Doom.
Yes.
Which is cool. You have Superman, Batman, Apocalypse.
Now this is still Netflix, right?
I don't know if each of these titles.
I was going to say the Doom isn't on Netflix. The Doomsday Superman isn't on Netflix. And,
well, look, let me tell you. Look, I tell all the guys. Look, if it's not on Netflix, get the DVD.
Yeah, you got to get the DVD, man.
Yeah. You have Superman, Batman, Apocalypse, so you know what's going to be going on there.
Yeah.
You have All-Star Superman. You have Superman versus the Elite, which is like a new group of like super villains. Now, there's one I want to tell you about. It's called Superman Shazam. And the reason I like that is because the Superman Shazam story is like the feature story of the DVD, but there are other sub-stories. They're like extras on the DVD, which you want to see, including a story about a character called the Spectre, which is an old school DC character from the days of the Justice Society, and a character named Jonah Hex, which is like DC's Wild West character. And there's an additional story on that DVD about Green Arrow. So there are like 4 stories on this DVD. So I'm telling you, the DC animated film universe, I think the Green Lantern ones are much better than they've been given credit for. There's one called Emerald Knights, and there's another one called, I think it's First Flight.
Yeah, that's a good film too.
That's a really good film.
The Green Lantern films, man, that has a lot of potential. The actual movie itself, it was okay. I mean, I was hoping for a little more. Like, I like the more realistic, character response as opposed to the humorous kind of thing that they continue to do for some reason. It's
almost like they didn't know what to do.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they cast the right guy if you want humor. I can say that. You know, he can be a serious actor. And I think maybe that's why they got him, because he's very humorous and you expect that from him. So it's more effective when he gets serious. You know what I mean? Because it's so rare in a film. You know. I mean, but it was good. He does some crazy. I mean, that guy, the Green Lantern, is capable of some really crazy shit. and just what he does as a superhero. So bringing that to the screen, I'm sure, was a challenge. You know what I mean?
Now, there's one more title. I don't know if you know this one, Mark, because now this one was put out last year, and I think it's excellent, especially if you're an Aquaman fan. It's called Justice League Throne of Atlantis.
Yes.
Okay, so
Very
you know it.
good. Yeah. Oh yeah. Uh huh.
Very good.
Yeah, man.
It's
Yeah.
very, very good.
Well, they're trying. I think they're really prepping people for this. You know what I mean? Like you can see where they've taken a lot of the characters from the comic book and really amplified the drama of the character in their film representation, and in particular in their animated films. And I think that's just prepping us for the upcoming films that they're going to make. What they did to The Dark Knight, I think, with that film series, I think it was awesome. And I think that it was definitely representative of the way they're taking all of their films. I mean, this Suicide Squad thing, I would expect some serious violence, gratuitous violence and horror and psychologically damaging, visual representations in that film. I mean, you can't have the Suicide Squad and not have the
murder and mayhem.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, this is what it is. This is what the Justice League was formed over. You know what I mean? These guys' activity. I mean, so they're setting us up big time, And I think Jason Momoa playing Aquaman's going to be – I think they're going to make a film. I really do.
Well, I mean, the reason look.
Those are excellent recommendations that you made. And I almost every one of those films. And I can tell you, I love every one of the ones I've seen.
I'm telling you, and look.
I've seen them multiple times. They're that good.
Oh, no, yeah. I'm telling you, look, guys can look, they made this title or that title may or may not be on Netflix. I'm telling you, pick up the DVD, because what you want to do is not give a damn about what's on Netflix. You want to be able to drop it in the DVD player, okay, on a Saturday afternoon or 1 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night. And you need to have 5 or 6 of these, because it's great guy stuff. These are really mature stories. It's not the Super Friends. Okay?
No,
these are
Super Friends.
Deep in the halls of the Justice League.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But no, but it's really good stuff. And you will pick out your favorites. I love all these titles. I have my favorites. I have some I like, more than others. But I like all of these titles. I like what they're doing with these characters. And, if someone had told me as a kid that we would have these depictions like this, I would never have believed it, because it's what I always would have dreamed of.
Oh, my God. Yeah, absolutely.
All of these characters, given their proper due, given their proper presentation. One of the reasons why the Justice League animated series is so good is because they depict the characters in their truest form, visually and character-wise, but they also give a lot of face time to obscure characters of the DC universe that might never ever get it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The Crimson Avenger, the Shining Knight, Mr. Terrific, and all of these characters, the Atom Smasher.
Yeah.
And so if you love this world, you can really jump into it with these selections. I think the Avengers films. See, the Avengers films are good for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is that they depict these characters in their most immediately recognizable form. You don't have to look at a guy and say, I don't know, who is this? Number 2 is that they are true to their comic book lore, to their comic book legacy, to their comic book origins. So what we're seeing is living, breathing pages of a comic book.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
The vision, the way the vision was depicted in that film was impeccable.
What are you talking about? The Avengers films?
The Avengers, the second one, the
Ultron, Age of Ultron. Man, it was awesome.
The way
I've seen that movie 9 times, man. No, man. I mean, James Spader. Come on, man. James Spader plays Ultron. I mean, that is like, you can't go wrong with that cast.
Yeah.
They did a good job on that second film.
Yeah.
Real good job. And they always do a good job setting up the next series of films within that. You know what I mean?
Well, when they had him down in the training room there.
Yeah, man. I mean, you just know, and the friction that builds between certain characters, they maintain it as in the comic book so that you can always spin off like a Civil War.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's always that conflict within, the infighting and just the personality clashes,
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, it's a dream come true because I grew up with these characters.
Yeah, me too.
And
along the lines of growing up with characters, we can't talk about all this without mentioning the new Spider-Man films. The Amazing Spider-Man films absolutely, I believe, blow away the Tobey Maguire films. I think Sam Raimi did a good job. I mean, I was a little surprised that the second and third film, it seems to me that they focus way too much on the drama between Mary Jane and Peter. Whereas with this film, or this series of films, The Amazing Spider-Man, it's been downplayed quite a bit. It's almost like they looked at the other, because there's Spider-Man and then there's The Amazing Spider-Man where they revamped the character in comic book. I mean, that transition was a part of the comic book transition. You know what I mean? There's 2 different series. There's the original Spider-Man series and there's the Amazing Spider-Man series. And both of them are good, but with the films, I like the second series better. I like the Amazing Spider-Man series, and I think they did a much better casting job too, with the Amazing Spider-Man guy. I can't think of his name right now for some reason, but the kid is awesome.
I think he's much more believable. I think that.
Let me look him up.
And again, you have to limit the kissy face stuff, please.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I mean, because that's only one little corner of the Spider-Man story. This thing with Gwen Stacy or, Betty Brant
it's the actor's name is Andrew Garfield.
All right.
I loved him in those films. I mean, we even had a second film. We had Jamie Foxx. I mean, that was excellent, man.
Playing Electro.
Dude, come on, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a great film.
Yeah, so I have a special affinity for Spider-Man, of course.
Me too, man.
And so Spider-Man films have got to be strong. They've got to be real. The one thing I will hearken back to the Tobey Maguire series. I loved the portrayal of J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah. Well, me too, man. I think
that guy had it nailed.
He did, and now you got me. Damn it, man! I'm thinking, what the hell is this guy's name?
I can't. He does the Farmers Insurance commercial.
Dude, he's so good. Hang on.
I have no idea what his name is, but he was so good in that.
His name in this film, J.K. Simmons. Perfect actor for that part, man.
I mean, you talk about...
He freaking nailed it, man.
He had that guy... I mean, you talk about capturing...
Well, they didn't actually get into his character at all in The Amazing Spider-Man.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean...
But he stole the show, dude.
He was so good, and I mean that was Jameson.
And Jameson was always a primary, instrument in that first Spider-Man comic series. You know what I mean? I mean, he was the antagonist.
He hated Spider-Man. Let me get it right now. Jameson provided the initial financing for the experiment that led to the creation of the Scorpion.
Ah, okay. That's right. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, he funded, and when the guy called, the guy called Jameson and said, look, the Scorpion is actually more dangerous than I thought. And James like, oh, good, excellent. Great.
He'll kill Spider-Man.
Right.
Right.
He said, no. He's going to go after everybody. But
okay.
yeah, so
Simmons was great in that role.
Yeah, it's really.
He
good.
was so quick, punchy, man. Good, excellent. Yeah, and there was some surprise stuff in that second film, man, that I wasn't expecting. The Rhino.
The Rhino
at the end there.
Paul Giamatti. Yeah.
Oh man, right? And then I don't know. Are they going to make a third one? I haven't heard anything.
I don't know. I mean, Spider-Man. The reason Spider-Man has such a great rogues gallery of bad guys.
Doesn't he though?
That, I mean, any Spider-Man movie is worth it just to, okay, who's it this time?
Well, in the comic, I read a comic, but when I was a kid, and it was the first Spider-Man comic I ever read, was he was fighting a giant lizard, a scientist turned into a giant lizard, but they called him Drago. They called him Drago. They didn't.
So it wasn't Dr. Connors.
No, it wasn't Dr. Connors. It was, he might have been Dr. Connors beforehand, but when he was the lizard with the lab coat, they called him Drago. So, And I don't know if that's a different lizard guy, but that comic is one of the first comics that I got when I was, 6, 7, maybe.
I always liked, to me, there was always a creepy edge to that always kind of, it was exciting. I was like, oh my God, this guy is like turning into a lizard.
Oh man. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy, man.
Right. And, I said,
that got its start too. If we look back, the Spider-Man series in the 70s and the 80s.
Oh, Nicholas Hammond.
It was the 80s, wasn't it? It was like 82?
It started in 79.
79, okay. Yeah, I was going to say it. But the way he was, remember how they had him peeling out on the side of the buildings? Like you could see where they had the cables and they just did away with them.
Yeah.
And he was kind of like not really moving as.
Yeah. Oh, I
remember that was an excellent series. Though.
I remember. I'm glad.
Remember the explosion in the lab, and he flies across and lands in the glass and shit. They've used that one a few times.
I remember that series so fondly now that you mentioned it. And now again,
I imagine production costs were extreme, and that's why it didn't last long. You know what I mean?
Right. And but in those days, I mean, what you have to be careful of. When you look back on these shows of that, don't juxtapose them to what we have now.
No.
Don't do that, because that's not the correct perspective.
Well, it was a different country.
It was a different country.
It was a different zeitgeist. You know what I mean?
And what they could do, what they could show you on camera technically was not even comparable to today. So it's not like they were giving you something of lower quality. Those guys, that show is being made with the cutting edge special effects of that time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you got to watch it in that spirit.
Yeah, man.
And if you do that, I promise that you'll like it.
Well, but that's like where the appreciative mind comes in. I mean, like, from a film lover standpoint, from a student of film standpoint, which I consider myself to be, I look at all of this stuff, and it's like watching a John Wayne movie. It's similar to that.
Yeah.
I admire the production value of those films and the performances that those actors gave, because acting was a completely different idea back then. I mean, few and far between were those people who were in films in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. That's why those names that came out of that era had that, they were steeped in the legend of Marlon Brando. You know what I mean? I mean, the performances that these people gave in these films throughout those years were the performances that ultimately inspired the actors along the road that came after them to transform acting itself. I mean, they inspired generations of actors that, we've seen afterwards now, and with acting in its advanced stages. I mean, you can look at acting now and it's, you talk about suspension of disbelief. Holy shit. You know what I mean? I mean, we're in the forefront. We're in the, we're at the pinnacle now, I believe. You know what I mean? You can't go very much further with acting than what you have now. So in going back, you gotta have that appreciation for the entire construct and where it's come from. And you're watching people who are literally on the cutting edge of developing the entire field. You know what I mean? In all of this. I mean, and really, the producers and the background and all that stuff. You have the writers and you have the directors, and you have the people behind the scenes that put it all together, and then the film editors, the people who cast and all that stuff. But the actors, you know what I mean? I mean, I've heard it been said, anybody can do that. Bullshit.
Right.
Bullshit.
No.
And I don't know, man. I have a lot of respect for this old Marvel stuff, this old DC stuff.
Yeah.
And we're just seeing that it, and it's hard for people to realize that. I know that's where you're going with it. But if it wasn't for those performances and for those productions, all of them that we've talked about tonight that came before, none of this stuff would be as advanced as it is.
No, none of it is.
You know what I mean?
There was a short-lived Captain America TV series with Red Brown.
Yes, and I loved it with the motorcycle, man.
The motorcycle, everything.
That was, it was awesome.
It was,
and there was even an early Flash. The early Flash was awesome. I actually bought the 4-disc set when it finally came out. You know what I mean?
That was with what's the guy, Wesley Ships.
You're right. Yeah.
John Wesley Ships.
Wesley Ships. And and you know what? He filled the role.
Yeah.
He looked like exactly what you would expect a Flash to look like physically. He was a perfect cast.
Yeah. And
Amanda Pays.
Oh my God.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I mean, in that time, I mean, she was
delicious.
She was quite, I was about to say, she was very much a veal cutlet.
She was delicious.
And
she was like one of those popular actresses at that time too, man.
Right.
That was like 89, 90, 91.
Exactly. Right in there.
Right in there. Yeah. Well, I got news for you. The new Flash series, I thought, was pretty damn good too on the CW.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I've seen both seasons, and I thought it was great. Little skinny, but Flash wasn't always a bulky guy.
Right. Yeah. So absolutely, I remember. I believe I've got that Flash series, that 90s on DVD.
It's excellent.
In fact, I know I do because
I have marathoned that series 6-7 times.
Mark Hamill plays the trickster.
Yes.
In that series.
Mark Hamill, my God. Yeah, that's right.
He plays the trickster. And
well, it's interesting because they brought him in the Arrow as well to play the trickster.
Okay, boom.
Yeah, man.
Why not?
Mm-hmm. It's all old and shit.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. Yeah. So, just huge legacy. Linda Carter.
Oh, man.
Who legitimized, I think, the character.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, she's the first,
She legitimized, it's not just the token silly chick character. I mean, she's in there, she's throwing guys across the room.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely objectified her to the T, to the hilt, which as a teenager I could appreciate.
A teenager.
Yeah.
I could appreciate it presently, but
what about the new Wonder Woman? Have you seen the new film yet?
I
haven't had time yet.
I haven't seen it, but I mean, I think that what I've seen of her is she meets the standards that I would set forth.
I think she does as well.
Yeah.
I think she does as well. I don't know. The film's getting mixed reviews. You know how that goes.
I don't base it because
there's people always say those who can't do. No, it's those who don't do.
I think there's some people who are not gonna like any superhero anything.
Yeah. Well, I think they just need to go away.
Yeah. And so they're just going to say, well, I don't think
it's like the Bigfoot subject, you know. Yeah. Same exact thing, man. And I mean, the bottom line is I'm looking up critics, and I'm looking at these guys, and it's not a film review. They're critiquing it, and it's invariable. You can look it up all over the internet. Every single one of them that says something about being a critic, they're negative. They have nothing but nasty shit to say about every film they review. So I don't even pay attention to what they say.
Well, they're just opportunistically negative. Oh, this film is not good.
Well, it's a way that somehow cathartically they can make themselves feel better than and climb the ladder of hierarchy in film review. Like, give me a break, man. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, I've seen critiques by several of these different blogs on films that were tens, historical films, and that's my genre, man. Historical films. I have a couple recommendations that I gave you that I'd like to mention here shortly, but I'm looking at some films that I was like moved by, and these people were like, oh this, oh that, oh this, oh that, and it's like, yeah, they were Hollywood blockbusters and they were major productions, but if you're gonna sit and actually give The Patriot a bad review,
based on what?
You have no place in film review, as far as I'm concerned. Like, well, Mel Gibson, I mean, come on, man. That was an epic production. It was well done. I've actually seen bad reviews on several of his historical films. How are you going to give Braveheart a bad review? I have no comprehension.
I don't know.
That's like an excellent film, man.
That's very good. Yeah, what are you
going, dude, it's like Academy Award winning.
But a lot of these guys, a lot of these folks, man. But they sit around and you're naming guy films too. That's part of it.
Well, you know what, man? I don't have time for that shit. That irritates me to no end, man.
These guys, they don't want to give anything a good review unless it's like The Sound of Music.
Well, you could be right. I mean, I look at what are they? Here's the thing: what are they giving a good review to? Nothing.
The Sound of Music?
Well, no, nothing. Like nothing. It's just sit around in your diaper,
right,
and don't change it. You know what I mean?
They find
an ash rash and don't put any ointment on it. Just sit there and continue to complain like a little bitch for the rest of your life.
But they find movies. They cherry pick. They find movies that they already hate and then review them.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think our reviews, I mean, it's few and far between, but it's good to find someone who reviews a film who appreciates cinema in the first fucking place. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? I mean, what's your purpose, Come up with all that shit. I don't know.
I see it all the time, reviewing. Some guys, some guys start a blog to talk about stuff that they hate.
Well, yeah. I mean, I got several talking about me, so.
Oh, Mark, you just, Mark,
Yeah. Well, the film thing, though, I mean, I get really irritated about that because, I spend whatever time I can. It's how I like to relax. There's two things I like to do outside of work. I like fishing, and I still like being outdoors. It's what I'm still outdoors fishing, and I love film. It's a passion for me, man. You know what I mean? And I appreciate every aspect of how a film's made, not just because now I'm making small productions and doing what I'm doing, but I've always appreciated film. I can remember appreciating the cinematography involved in the Ten Commandments. I can remember appreciating Ray Harryhausen's work, its stop motion work in the original Clash of the Titans. I've always been aware for some reason, even at an early age, of production value and the effort that went into it. And for some reason, I was just born to appreciate film. You know what I mean? I love it, man. I love it. And I abhor people who don't. I think that you're stepping all over art. You know, people don't understand it's art, and I think that's a misconception for a lot of these people that review film. Like, do you understand? Like, this is art, man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people realize that. It's like, it's entertainment. It's not fucking entertainment. It can be entertaining, but it's
entertainment. That's an effect.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
that's an effect.
They don't realize even that. You know what I mean?
I mean, it is art that entertains. The entertainment is an effect of the art. So, and like you, look, we talked about look, part of that childhood thing for me was absolutely Harryhausen.
Oh my God. Come on, man. Harryhausen, that guy changed the game. Dude, he invented stop motion. Come on, man. He changed the game. And those early films, even if it wasn't Harryhausen, they used his technique. His techniques are still used to this day.
Well, and the other thing too was aside from the technique, I love his design.
Oh my God, yeah, man.
Because I mean, he's designing the creatures and all of the stuff that you see. His design,
the imagination,
right?
Oh God, it was unbelievable.
The Emir in 20 Million Miles to Earth, or the Colossus of Rhodes in Jason and the Argonauts.
Oh man!
The Hydra. The Hydra from I think that's Jason and the Argonauts too.
It is. It's they're after the Golden Fleece, sir. So yeah, man, great film.
The design. There's the Cyclops.
Sinbad. All the Sinbads with Patrick Wayne.
Patrick Wayne, the Sinbad in the Eye of the Tiger.
John Wayne's son, yeah.
I saw that in the movies. I saw that in a movie theater. I couldn't have been more than 10 or 11.
Yeah, man, we're talking about the evolution of art. And, it's like, people have a tendency to not understand that. In my opinion, those films should be played a lot more than they are. I think those classics, especially the science fiction ones, Sci-Fi Saturday should still be. I would watch it every single week if I could. You know what I mean? I think those are films that influenced, my interest in science fiction. Even the bad ones, Plan 9 from Outer Space. Even the bad ones, man.
There's a place for it, because you know what they said about Ed Wood, and during his career, there was a slogan in Hollywood, and you know what it was? When it comes to making bad films, Ed Wood is the best.
Yeah, he was voted worst director of all time.
Right.
That shit cracks me up, because it was like, hey man, how can we make this film for nothing?
Yeah, and it wasn't. I don't think. I mean, it wasn't that Ed Wood lacked talent. Ed Wood didn't have any resources.
Yeah, but he still got it done.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I love the art of guerrilla filmmaking.
You want to see a damn fine film, and it's entertaining to no end. Is Ed Wood? It's
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, man. And
Martin Landau.
Oh my God, Martin Landau won an Academy Award for his performance as Bela Lugosi.
He was so good.
That was a sleeper, man. When that film came out, and Tim Burton put that out, he was on the heels of Frankenweenie, the short film. So you're looking at Tim Burton's first official film. Is Ed Wood. This guy came out of the gate and blew people's minds. You know what I mean?
That film is so good.
I watched it 1,000 times. 1,000 times. Bill Murray. Come on, man. I mean, that's some good shit right there. Okay.
So we're gonna put that on the recommendation list. And now all of this will be revisited on the Explorer Club website.
Oh my God! All right, listen. Ed Wood is in my top 10.
Okay.
I got news for you. You know what I mean?
I got it right here on the shelf behind me on a DVD.
Dude, it's you know then. You know,
all right, so
it's worth watching. You know.
So but I want people who may be casually, it's not like we're going to say this and then this be dismissed. this will be a part of the Explorers Club website. The film recommendations, the food recommendations, the everything, sports. Mark, we talked about different categories of things to be observed on the website. Film and food and sports, cars. We had some commentary earlier about the 65 Mustang and the Shelby and what was the one you said? It was really what was it, a 69? What did you say?
Yeah, 69
Camaro.
69 Camaro. 68, well, 68 and 69.
Okay.
I look at the Explorers Club, Doc, and I really, to express, what I get from what you and I have talked about, really, we've played it up and we've been humorous about it, and I think that's an excellent representation of the humor behind it. But this club, this men's only opportunity, is, to me, an appreciation and a representation of all things that I love throughout my life and have an immense amount of respect for, and that I feel have a place today in my life and should have a larger place in representation of the American man on television, on social media, just all around. It should be promoted. It should be loved. And it's gone by the wayside. And this club that we're starting is representative of that. It's not a place to argue. It's not a place to bring your bullshit. What it is in its purest form, the appreciation of all the things that over the decades the American male has developed a passion for, and an extreme appreciation for that in this club. The adventure side of it, where you're able to interact with guys who are actually out there doing, not talking about doing, and encouraging you to do yourself.
Yeah.
And that's lost these days, man. There's a whole culture out there of people who are doing it, but they're not doing it in the way we're talking about doing it and representing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's so important that we try to keep a firm grip on that. And not only that, but bring it back into the forefront of visualization. And that's what I get out of the Explorers Club.
Yeah.
I have a passion for these things, exploring. And, I made light of it, do you have what it takes to explore planet Earth, and all this stuff. But the bottom line is this is who I am. I was thrown out of a country. Where do you think I get my material?
Yeah.
What am I going to make shit up? This is my life. You know what I mean? I did wake up in a Mexican jail. You know what I mean? Like, all these things have happened to me as an adventurer. Just going with the flow. Traveling, doing things. You end up sometimes you're in situations that you don't want to be through no fault of your own. And you have to deal with it, man.
Yeah.
Like your encounter with the wolf.
Yeah.
In Spain. You didn't ask for that shit, but as an adventurer,
I can assure you, I did not sign up. No.
Yeah, man, but as an adventurer, this is the type of thing that happens. And that's what the Explorers Club is purely about. An appreciation for that. And that's what's been lost, if you ask me. I mean, we've been downtrodden as a culture in this country, and it's time that changes. So I'm done with my rant.
No, but it's an excellent platform. I mean, this is we're bringing this to you. Like you said, the adventure, the Mexican jail.
No, this is no joke, man.
The wolf escaping a nondescript country under light to moderate gunfire.
You know what I'm saying?
All of
caught in an international incident between two countries that aren't friends with the United States. This is part of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of these things, man. And I look at it all, and you and I, we have a unique perspective on all this because we believe in tradition. We believe in tradition, and that really is what it's about, man. The Explorers Club is going to be something. And I look at the networking aspects of it and being able to communicate with other individuals, like-minded individuals. And they're out there. They're out there. We have been persecuted. We have been downtrodden. And I look at this and with all this political correctness,
Right.
you know, it's not that I can't appreciate change because I can. I don't have a death grip on staying the same, but I liken what's going on now to have fallen off a steep bank and I'm rolling and I can't stop myself. And I think that a lot of people feel that way, that, you know, this stuff is changing way too fast as of late, especially. And it's moving in a direction where all of this stuff, the stuff that has kept the American man in a firm foothold in what he represents and what, you know, we all really, the way we grew up and all that stuff, it's just we're being torn out by the roots. And I think that's, you know, I'm not prepared for all that. You know what I mean? I'd like to hearken back to a better day.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, try to promote it as what, you know, really is being more true to myself. I don't like a lot of the stuff that I'm forced to absorb the information. I view this as, you know, I mean, we all have a choice whether we participate in the things that are going on. That doesn't mean that we have to accept it and we can't try to, you know, move forward with a better way to do it in the same mediums. You know what I mean? I mean, this is our spot. You know what I'm saying? We're building our spot, Doc.
Absolutely. We're carving out our niche. We're
doing it, you know?
And, you know, and so this is just a little sample of what, you know, is going to be made available to those gentlemen.
Oh my God. The thinking man,
the Renaissance man, the man of the world, the man of adventure, the man of accomplishment, the man of taste, the man, all of these things. And trust me, like, this is not going to be, you know, a slob society. That's not what it's going to be. There's gonna be guys of substance in here. And like you said, you will be communing with other gentlemen, and, you know, who come across from broad spectrums of businesses and industry and vocations. And I imagine that there will absolutely be networking possibilities within the construct of the club.
I can tell you this right now, based on the people that I'm in contact with, and the demographic, both in professional respects and cultural respects, is a broad spectrum of individuals. Yeah. I have individuals contacting me about the Explorers Club that are physicists that work with plasma on a daily basis and invented things and discovered things. I mean, we're talking about academics. We're talking about people who are right down to master woodworkers. We're talking about a guy right now building me a guitar by the name of George. You know, I have an immense amount of respect for this man. You know what I mean? I mean, we're talking about a broad spectrum of the American male represented here, and the ability to begin, you know, to discover, you know, how these other gentlemen are living their lives, and broaden your horizons of awareness, man. I mean, this is really at its core what the Explorers Club is about. You know, the appreciation for each other. You know.
Absolutely. And so again, this is in the works. The website is coming together. We're going to, you know, keep you, you know, updated, and, you know, we're just giving you little bits and pieces here and there. But, I am so excited about the premiere of the site, the, adjoining live broadcast to kick it off.
Oh man. Yeah, the membership drive, you know.
It's basically, it's a membership drive.
The encouragements, you know, the accoutrements, every aspect of that first show is going to be killer, man. You know what I mean? We're having an auction. That whole thing is going to be awesome. You know, there's some interesting stuff going on, and you know, I mean, if there was 36 to 48 hours in a day, I think we could get it done a lot faster. But it is what it is, and we're doing our best.
Well, we don't want the Earth to be like Krypton and shift its orbit.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, hey, listen, I got a couple recommendations here. Film recommendations, right?
All right.
Now, I mentioned the Punisher Warzone. This is in respect to our superhero thing, and this is not a superhero. This is the Punisher. It's different.
All right.
Is he a hero? In some respect, he's a revenge motivated individual. Highly antisocial, but an entertaining film franchise in any way. The Punisher with Thomas Jane, pretty good film. The first one that they came out with was with Dolph Lundgren in the 80s. I thought it was excellent. I thought he did a pretty good job. It was very dark, so I recommend that film first. Then the Thomas Jane, John Travolta film. And then Punisher Warzone. Finish it up with Punisher Warzone. It's got a French female director, but I highly recommend this film. Extremely graphic. Prepare yourself for that. The Dolph Lundgren film isn't as graphic, but I thought it was pretty damn good, actually. They stayed true to the character. So for my film recommendations for superhero films, I'm going to go with those. The Punisher series. Okay. Excellent films, all three of them. And then I have a couple of historical films, historically motivated films. Right. Obviously, we're tapping into some creative writing where these films are concerned, but excellent films. First series actually is on Netflix. It's the Marco Polo series. If you haven't seen it, excellent film series. There's 2 seasons available right now. Chronicles from the beginning. Marco Polo and his relationship with Kublai Khan. Both seasons are excellent. You never know when this guy's going to die. I mean, he's like, he's dealing with the Mongols and their conquering of China, and it's an excellent series. The other series I watched over the course of the last 2 weeks when I had a chance, and I just finished it up. It's called The Last Kingdom. It's on Netflix as well. Okay. If you're familiar with the series Vikings on the History Channel, which is an excellent series, I highly recommend that. I think there's 3 seasons available on that. Am I correct in saying that? I think there's 3.
I think it's 3.
I think 3 or 4 possibly. Might be 4. But this is the exact same time frame, The Last Kingdom, but it's from the British perspective, from the English perspective. So you're going to get the same Ragnar invading and all that stuff, but and obviously different actors, but it's how they dealt with it from their perspective. And I think Netflix was pretty smart in doing that to try to take advantage of the Viking series that History Channel put out. Pretty clever. Pretty clever, man. Excellent investment there. The actual actor that's in it is very good. The acting's good. The writing's good. Excellent script. Excellent direction. 1 season on that. Excellent though. So those are my recommendations. Historical, we got Marco Polo and The Last Kingdom. Those 2 series, I gave them both 10s, and then I'm recommending the Punisher Warzone this week, and as the main film, but the Punisher series, I thought they were excellent films.
All right, cool. So, all right, well, I'll do mine. We touched on it earlier. I'm recommending almost the entire DC Universe animated original movies. Standout titles, in my view: Batman Under the Red Hood, Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, Justice League New Frontier, which is really cool because it's a Cold War era story, and features the origin of Martian Manhunter and Green Lantern. Justice League Doom, and Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. Now, all of those are either on Netflix or on DVD. Historical film. I'm going to go ahead and recommend Anthony Hopkins in a film called Surviving Picasso, where he actually plays Pablo Picasso.
Excellent film.
Excellent film. He shows his chops in an unbelievable manner. Picasso, of course, was the ultimate man's man.
Yeah.
And this film reveals that in no uncertain terms. Second one is a film called Ike, Countdown to D-Day, the story of the planning of the Normandy invasion. General Eisenhower is played by Tom Selleck.
Oh, nice.
excellent.
Now, is this new?
It's only been out a couple years.
Okay.
It was produced by A&E Network.
Okay.
Very, very well done. Excellent portrayal. Excellent, relative accuracy for what you could expect in a historical drama. The essential facts are there, but there's an intensity to the film, the intensity of planning this thing, of plotting this thing, of the logistics, of the day in and day out. It was an undertaking of epic proportions.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's called Ike, Countdown to D-Day.
I'm going to check that one out as well, man.
In the first 10 minutes of the film, the whole process by which Eisenhower was selected as the commander of the Allied forces, I mean, it's so intense that you're tired after that. Okay.
That sounds good, man.
So those are my recommendations, and I would say, based on what I've heard for the last couple of hours, we've once again turned in another all-star edition of the Agenda Earth program. So, having said that, I will also say this. I am Dr. William Lester.
And I'm Mark Zaskey.
We'll see you again next time.
Have a good night, folks.